Hi people in the future. We're doing today security. Day 7 cookies actually. So yesterday we talked about authorization. We saw that how we can protect some routes based on if someone is admin or not, or if they are logged in or not. So it's based on authorization and authentication. And today we're going to talk about cookies. So the theory is like yummy, so to say. Raise your hand if you have heard of cookies before. Yeah? Great. Where did you hear about cookie?
Affiliate marketing.
Affiliate marketing. Or the cookies that we just eat, so to say. And that's why I put it yummy there. Before we go in, what kind of information is passed? I would like you to tell me. What kind of information is passed in an HTTP request? Yeah, JSON string, which is, let's say, the data or payload in the body. Anything else? So we have body of the request. What? Can you tell me again?
The URL
Exactly.
in the header body.
The method, URL, and headers. Fantastic. These the things that we've seen we can pass into an HTTP request. And how about response? What do we have in the response actually? So when you send back a response from the server, what is inside of the response actually? What do you have there?
Status code or
Fantastic. One of them.
status message.
Yes. The response code or a status code. Do we have headers or not also in the response back?
Yeah.
Definitely. Do we have any data that we're sending back in the body? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same thing. Fantastic. This is the information that are passed in an HTTP request. So far we've seen that. And cookies actually are a little tiny pieces of data passed in the headers. Yeah. If the request goes in the headers could be a cookie. If the response goes back, the header could be in the cookie. The cookie could be in the header. Commonly, the server sends cookies for the client or front end. Okay. What does the client do? The client then stores these cookies. Where? Into the browsers. Okay. A cookie header contains a name and a value and some metadata, like some extra information, like this cookie will be expired in 24 hours or blah 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 blah, a little information about the cookie. A cookie header can look like this. So you have a set cookie, it's the name actually. So you have session ID with a value. It expires, let's say, at Wednesday, 31 October 2028. It's secure and HTTP only. These are metadata or extra information about this cookie. Now imagine this session ID could be, we hide inside of this cookie, instead of this ABC123, we put our JWT token there. Right? It looked like that. This is our token, for example, when we create the token. Now let's see what they mean actually. The session ID is the name of the cookie. You can name it whatever you want. Let's say token. Yeah, it's just a name. The ABC is the value of the cookie. It could be anything, a random ID or whatever, or your token, the token that you created. And this is like expiration, when it will be expired. After this, the cookie will be deleted by the browser. Like when it's expired, automatically the browser is going to delete it from the browser actually. And there is two other things, secure and HTTP only, which secure and HTTP only defines what kind of cookie this is and how it should be passed between the request and response. I would like to talk about this when we like live code that. All right? All right. You know what? I want to stop here. We will come back to the notes to talk about theories more. Yeah, I would like to live code actually, just straight ahead to like to see how these things work. Let me just open, or I don't need. I have installed something that is, I can paint everywhere that I want. Look at that. Do you see this? The painting, yeah, fantastic. So when, let's say this here is like your browser, your React, your front end, and this is your back end or server. So when the user is logged in, we create a token, yeah? And with the creation of the token, we've learned we can send the token to the front end and we saved it into the local storage. We haven't done that, there was no time, but we usually don't save it into the local storage because the local storage, it's easy to steal it, okay? It's accessible, they can access to your local storage with a nice script, easy script like get local storage, and that's it, you have it. So when we create the token, from here we send it straight ahead into the cookies. So the server can tell, hey, this token should be in the cookies. So the response when it goes, the browser automatically knows that, oh, server wants me to save this little piece of information inside of the cookies. So your browser automatically does that. You don't need to code that, because if you want to save the token inside of the local storage, you have to do it yourself. Like local storage, set item, token, and the token inside. It goes to the local storage. But about the cookies, it's automatically done. Yeah? And when we create the token, we put it into the cookies and send it back to the browser or your front end, and your front end is gonna save it into the cookies to the browser. And then for the extra, like for the later request, let's say now the user is logged in, have a cookie inside, it wants to now get access to a secret page, or want to get access to profile, want to get access to all messages, want to get access to product or whatever, when the request is going, so the front end puts the cookie inside of the request automatically, because inside of the cookie now we have the token, and the server now receives the cookies and says, okay, you give me a cookie, let me check who is inside. There is a token, let me see who is behind the scene. Oh, it's, let's say, Jacob. Then I know it's Jacob, let me give back the information that it wants, products, profile, or whatever. If there is no cookie provided, the server blocks you from the request and it doesn't give you response. It says, yeah, you have to log in first or whatever. Yeah, this is the procedure we're gonna do, but we'll see more details about cookies, how it works. Let's live code it. I would like to use our previous code to continue on that. Yeah, because then we will have time to go more details than I build it from the scratch. So I'm going to take previous code that we had, which means this one. We're going to take everything inside.
You're taking all of yesterday?
Yeah, all of yesterday login continued folder from 30 of June. I'm going to paste it somewhere here. All right, we have server, we have client. So inside of server, let's take a look what we have. We have two models, question model, okay. We can create questions and so on. And we have a user model, which has a username, email, passport, age, verified, and role, okay. And we have some routes, auth route, responsible for registration and login. And in the user router, we don't have that much of endpoint yet, but we have one endpoint for getting all the users. And the questions also, we have get questions, update questions, okay. So what we want to do is like, this is about still the login, yeah? We are talking about authentication still. We were doing yesterday, we will learn that like, we can create the token and then send it to the front end. Front end would take the token and save it to the local storage. Yeah, so the local storage is dangerous. We want to change this part actually. We want to save this token in a cookie. All right, let's first run our terminal and our back end. Let's see, is everything set up and so on. So cd into server npm start. All right. So, let's try to make a request to login and so on to see what we receive. I'm gonna log in with Okile and 12345. I think I have Okile in my database. Let's see. Fantastic. You can see the response that we receive, it's a token, and we receive it in the front end, and we would save it in the local storage, but we don't want to do this. It's dangerous. What we do is we want to put it into the cookies, and in the notes we've learned that. There's the notes. Give me the notes. Yeah, it's over here. Where did I tell? Where is it? There's a sentence, I'm looking for it, I don't see it, but maybe this here. Currently the server sends cookies for the client. The client stores these cookies. So a cookie header contains a name, value, and database, some metadata. A cookie header can look like this. Cookies are sent or passed inside of the headers. Yeah. So when you send a cookie, automatically it will be inside of the header and goes to the backend, goes to the front end. And if you send back the cookie for the other request, inside of the header of the request will be the cookie. All right. So this means this is the header information. When we send back a response like this, the token won't be anymore here in the body of the request, because here is the body of the request we receive in the front end. But when we put it into the cookies, it comes inside of the headers. We don't have anymore a body of the request like that. There is a token inside. Yeah, it could be a message like, yeah, successfully logged in or so on, but the token is hidden inside of the headers. Yeah, and then the headers in the front end browser will receive it and save it automatically in our browser. We will see that today how it works. But let's now, when we create the token, when the user successfully is logged in, like the email and password is correct, we create a token for that. And instead of sending the token, we want to create cookie. Like we want to put it into a cookie. Yeah, there is a inside of the response or res. If you put a dot and you type cookie, you will see there is a cookie function actually. Yeah. Cookie function is a method that sends actually a response. And sending a response like sending whatever you want to put inside of, so to say, cookie section. So here, this is a function or method. Let's see what it receives as a parameter. So the cookie function first receives a name. Like we know that the cookies have a name and value. And both of them, you could see, must be a string. A name could be anything. You can name it, I don't know, whatever, session ID, token, or whatever. We name it token because it's a token JWT. And the value is our real token. And some options. The options is like expiration, I don't know, some security stuff we can add to that. So 3 things. So the first thing is a name of the cookie that should be saved into our browser. You can name it whatever you want, but it should be related, yeah? And as a string. So it's a token we want to save inside of the cookie. And the second is the value of the token. The value of this token is the real token that we created in here. And some options. So here, as an object, you can add some options. For example, max age. You see, that's the suggestion. So max age is in milliseconds. So usually in programming, guys, when you working with dates and I don't know, running something after minutes or whatever, it's usually always based on milliseconds. Yeah, and you can see that's message in milliseconds. So if you, for example, type 5 here, it means 5 milliseconds. Yeah. If you type here 5,000, that means 5,000 millisecond. It's how much is it? 5 seconds? Yeah, exactly, 5 seconds, because every millisecond is 1,000. Every second is 1,000 milliseconds, so to say. You have to then calculate that. For example, if you want a cookie to be expired in 1 hour, it will be something like in for example 24 hour. So every 24 hour multiplied by 60, because every hour is 60 minutes, and every minute is 60 seconds. So it gives us actually seconds of a day. How many seconds is it? Multiply, if you want to make it to millisecond, multiply by 1000. So this is just, I think, 24 hours. I'm not sure, you have to actually calculate that. 24 hours. So after 24 hours it will be expired, so to say, and automatically will be deleted from the browser. That's the good thing about the cookies. So everything is automated. Yeah. So this will send the token inside of the header and send the response. And also you can have another response here like normal, status code with, let's say, when someone successfully logs in, status could be 200. And now you can send any type of anything you want. So in case, we can say a message of like, yeah, successfully logged in. Let's test it actually. I just want to see how it works. Let's make the request to log in. If we successfully are logged in, we create a token, we put the token in the cookie, and also a response. Status. So let's log in. Okay. Bang. Now look at this time. The body of the request we received in the front end is just an object with a message successfully logged in. But where is the token now?
Cookies, as we said.
Yes, do you see that? It's here in the headers. And that's the token actually we created. There's a token equals to, and that's the token was created by JWT. And also there is bunch of metadata or extra information about that. You can see we have a max 8 about this much of seconds, which means it expires at Wednesday, 2nd of July, like tomorrow, around this hour. Yeah, about 24 hours, I think. So this will be sent actually into the browser, and the browser takes that automatically and saves it to your database. Save it to your browser. So it seems it's working. But let's test now how we can use this, because now this is the one that it's like a key for this user, Okile, for the later request. Now Okile is logged in. Now Okile wants to get all the questions. Do you remember, for getting the questions, we were protecting this route? I hope I remember. Yeah. Yesterday, we were protecting this route. If someone want to get all the questions, they should be logged in. So checking the token. So this is the token now, this time inside of the cookies. I think we need to change our check token function first, and then also checking the role, and then if everything is fine, they can have access to the questions. Now let's see, before we do changes, let's see, to make a request to get a questions, and let's see if it's working. I'm gonna get rid of the anymore. We don't put the cookie, like the tokens, inside of the header anymore. Not like this, because we use cookies now. But let's see. I'm gonna make the request. Okile is logged in, and let's see what happens. Bang. Token is not provided. That's the check token function that is checking here and says, where did it go? The question. The check token checks it and it says, hey, there is no cookie provided in the authorization header. It's not anymore there. We have to first change our check token function a bit. Where is it located in the middleware's check token? So here it was for before. If you like send it manually, the token inside of the headers based on authorization, then we could get it. But now it's inside of the tokens, inside of the cookies, which means rec.headers. Inside of the headers, we have cookie. We can have access to the cookie actually. Let's console log it if we really have access to that. I'm gonna console log this line. All right, that you can see. CLG. CLG. Come on, give me the. Let's console log cookie in check token. Let's see if we see it. Something. Rec. In the request, inside we have headers, and inside of the headers we always have cookie or cookies, I don't know. Let's see. Let's make the request again to test things. Get the questions and look at that. Cookie in check token, we have token equals to cookies is coming. Yeah, this is the cookie that was saved into the header when Okile logged in, so to say. Do you receive that also? Great. This console log giving access us to the cookie, but we need to change our algorithm a bit, our JavaScript. So this line, you say it gives us token equals to this. We need somehow to have this token actually, because we have a token equals to. We don't care about this thing. I need the real token, this one, because I want to check this, verify that, who is behind that, and so on. And before we had that in the header like authorization, there was a space between them and bearer and so on. We don't have bearer now here, and no space. How do you get now only this out of this string? Token equals to this. How can you get it only that? How can I change this to get this? It's just JavaScript algorithm. Before was like bearer space and da, 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 da. And what we did is we said, hey, split it with space and put it in an array, and it would split it from space, and we had this and this an array. We could access to the second element. Now this time we have token. Oops. equals to this. Now I want this. We don't have a space, we don't have bearer. How can I get this? We can use slice, we can use also the split actually. You can split a string based on anything that you want. So here was a space before because we had a space here, we could just separate them or split them. Also the token, there is an equal between them. What if we just separate them or split them with an equal? And then it looks for everywhere when we have an equal, it splits this before and after that. Now we will have an array of token, and the second element is this the value of the token, like this raw token. And we can have access it to the second thing. So that should work. So let's make the request again. Fantastic. The response was successful, and we know who was behind this token. It was Okile. Yeah. Our check token now is updated, is working correctly. So guys, you will have your check token always. The token must come in the cookie, not anymore just headers authorization, because if you do that, you have to manually add that, and you see inside of the local storage is bad. It's always should be cookie, okay? And then you don't need to pass it here manually because automatically will be sent it. And then we take the token out of this inside of the cookie, and we check who is behind the scene, and we add that person, which is only an ID inside of the request for the weitere, or for the later, for the next middlewares if they need it, who was behind this token. All right, the check token is working. I would like that we test this in the front end, like how it saves into the browser, how it looks, how we can make the request now to see from the browser how it works, okay? We have a client in the front end. We have a client folder that we already built that. It has, I don't know, some login page and so on. Let's run it and let's see. cd into /clients npm run dev. All right, this is the one that we have. So let's inspect and inside of application tab, we can have access to local storage, and inside we have also cookies. This is the part that automatically will be saved, and we can see there is nothing inside. Yeah. So the token that we send in the cookie should be saved here automatically after login, when a person is logged in. Let's try to log in. Okay. If you have a user in your database, you can log in with that very bad user interface we have. It's not responsive, but anyway, I think I want to log in with Okile because I already know the password 12345. there should be a response coming. Okay, bang. A response is coming, and you can see nothing is saved into the local storage. But if I check the console, it says, hey, you are logged in successfully. And where is the network tab? But you can see there is no token is saved here. Even if I check the network, like the network tab, the request that it went, so in the headers, if you check, we received the token. Yeah, we received it, but somehow the browser did not save it in our local storage, in our cookie section. Yeah, that's a problem. That's a problem, and we have to mention this to our client, or we have to mention it in our React that say, hey, if there is a cookie coming, you have to save it in the cookies. You can see there is a cookie is coming, there is a token inside, but it's not saving that there. Let's solve this issue. So there is only one word that you can add every time you send a request from your front end or client. Because this request, when you log in, so when you click on log in, you make a request, yeah, a fetch request, some credential inside, and send it to the backend, and you say, let me in. When this request goes, you need to modify a bit the fetch request, that the fetch, so to say, you're going to tell the fetch, hey, fetch request, if there is a cookie in the response is coming, please save it into the cookies. All right. So if you go to the login, which is here, this page, if we check our request now, when we click on the login button, this request goes with the credential, email, and password. We stringify that. We say what is the method. We say the like content type application JSON. Yeah. And we send the request to this endpoint to log in. Successfully, we receive something and so on. Yeah. Here we need still to modify, hey, fetch request. If you receive the response, if inside of the headers there's a cookie, save it to the cookies. So here we need to say one word only, credentials include. All right, one more thing. This is telling your fetch, hey, fetch request. When you do your request, when you receive a response, if successful response, if login is successful, definitely you have a cookie in the headers. If you have it, save it in the cookies. This line is telling to your fetch actually. One of the things that tells to your fetch is this one. Let's test it if it's really working or not this time. If not, we have to do then something else still. So let's see. I'm gonna go to application tab and let's log in. You know what? I want to bring this down. How can I bring? Yeah, that is much better. All right. So we are in the cookie section. There is nothing. Let's give it a try. I want to log in again with Okile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bang. Still, I don't see anything. And if I check the console, oh, we got error. Email does not exist. Access denied, origin this and this. So, who can say what's the problem and how can I solve this issue? Where does it come from? Which error we have now? I'm going to give it a try. Okile, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bang. Now we have error. And it's coming a course error. Where's the course error and how we can solve it?
We need to add the course function at main server file.
Exactly. Fantastic. You're correct. But look at that. We have it already. Yeah. We have it already, and that's the thing, the new thing that you see. The fetch function, what it does, where is the, this here. This line that we added, credential include, this means if there is a cookies coming, please try to save it to our local store, to our cookies section. This line goes in the request to your backend. So it says, hey backend, someone want to log in, and we need also the cookies, like the token inside of the cookie. Can you give it to us? And because it's a very secure thing, your server says, you know what, then if you want cookie, I only give cookies if I know from the request where is it coming, because I need to know who is asking for cookies, because cookies are secure, okay, and cookies only are sent to a front end that you specified that. You need to specify who is the origin. Yeah, the server is very secure here. It says, I don't know you. Yeah, you said, when you say course only like that, it means every request from everywhere in the world is allowed to make a request here. But when it's about cookies, when it's about a bunch of information that server wants to give you, like a token inside of the cookie, then the server says, you need to tell me who you are, the front end, and which origin you are. This is the origin, localhost 5173. Yeah, you have to specify that here as an option, like object. You can say the origin that is asking only is allowed to ask for a cookie is HTTP, your front end, your address of your front end. Maybe for you is something else, I don't know. HTTP / localhost. The port is 5173. This is the first thing that you have to tell your course, hey, if the request coming from this origin, it's okay if you want to give it cookies. All right, let's test it. Still, maybe we have some problem, but let's test it. I'm gonna log in again. Bang. Still we have the problem. Still it's telling, oh, not allowed, it's course. I don't accept that. But if you don't do this from the browser, because this is security in the browser, if you do it with the HTTP request, it's working. You saw that. The next thing is that you need to add is one more thing. Credentials true. So you have to modify your course that you're telling the person that is sending the request should be from this origin if they want cookies, otherwise I don't give them. And when you say credentials true, it means let the cookies go and come. Yeah, just let it, if there is a cookies coming in the request, let it come from this origin. If a cookies is going to be sent to this origin, then let it go. This is something like that. All right, does that make sense so far? I'm trying to go step by step actually. All right, let's test it now. Bang! This time. Successful login now. And let's check the application section. And in the cookies, you see, what do you see here? It's the token. We named it token. Yeah, you can name it, as I said, whatever you want. It's coming in naming. Where is it? In the auth router here. We named it token. This is the naming coming from there. A name, and the value is the token we created. Yeah, this is the token. It's about Okile. Who's behind this token? We know it. We just logged in. We know it's Okile, but no one knows who is behind this. Yeah, only server knows with the check token. And now Okile is logged in. There is a token inside in the cookies. Now, if Okile wants to, for example, have, let's say we have another page. Or if Okile wants to see the secret page, we want to show the secret page only if Okile or this person that we don't know who is admin. Yeah, we are not still there, but for the next request, we will check. Hey, check this person. Server, check this person. If is admin, then tell me that I wanna like make this user to see this page. If it's not admin, I don't want to show it, for example. Or maybe you want to check the profile, you want to check the messages, get all messages or whatever, get all questions. So every time you're making a request from now on, after login, you have to put this inside of the request first. Because if the server doesn't have a token, it says, oh, I don't know you. I don't give you anything. I don't give you messages. I don't give you questions because you didn't give me a token, because I need to know who you are. Yeah, that's why we save the token in the browser. And every time now Okile wants to check, for example, messages, to get messages, in the fetch request that it goes to the backend. So this is the backend. Hey, give me messages. This token must go inside of the fetch request. Our backend checks it. If it's fine, it gives back the messages. If there's no token provided, or it's not valid or malformed or whatever, the server says, sorry, error, no token or invalid token, then you have to log in again. Yeah, that's why we need a token. That's why also we need to save it somewhere, because for later request. Does that make sense? All right. There's one more thing. I want you to see this little section here, HTTP only. And there is no value for that. If it's HTTP only, there should be like a little tick here. Bang. Yeah, we don't have this little tick here. And let's talk about it. What does that mean, so to say? I'm gonna experiment something. Document dot local document dot get local storage. That's our local storage. We can access to our local storage. Yeah, if I save something dot set item, let's say if there is a cat and it's Julia. And if someone run a script to check my local storage, they have access to that. Yeah, that's why we don't save the token there in the local storage. So because everyone has access to that, with a normal just type, if they run a script, for example, if you go to a GitHub page, let's say, if you go to my GitHub and you check one of my, for example, repositories and so on, and you see, okay, there is a bunch of let me readme file. If you click, for example, on a readme file, then behind the scene, I'm running, for example, I'm running a little JavaScript that I'm getting your local storage. Yeah, you don't know that, but you are visiting my GitHub. I just run a script, JavaScript, little tiny JavaScript. Hey, fetch local storage, send it to me somewhere. I get you a bunch of information if you come here and you don't know it, because it's easy to get access to the local storage. And if you have some very secure thing, like secret stuff, like a token in the local storage, it's easily stolen. Yeah, like this way. And what about cookie? Is it accessible? Definitely is accessible. If I check document.cookie, you can see that's the token is saved there. Yeah. Also, it's accessible. I can access to that with this line, document.cookie. What if I run this in my, also when you visit my GitHub, I can say fetch and fetch document cookies, and I receive the cookies and send it to me, for example, and I have access to your token. Then, hey Jay, you said its cookies are secure and no one can have access to that with JavaScript. Yes, but now still they can access to that, because this cookie is accessible with JavaScript because we don't say HTTP only. We need to add this. We need to say, hey, it should be HTTP only. What does that mean? HTTP only means only this token must be transmittable from here to somewhere else through HTTP request. Only if there is a HTTP request and it wants the cookie. And it must be at the same origin, like the origin that you define. Only if this page with localhost 5173 wants the cookie and wants the token, it's allowed to be sent. Other than that, if there is a JavaScript running, give me the token. If there is another page asking for this token, it's not allowed. That's the part that we say only HTTP. Yeah, we didn't add that. So we should say when we create the cookie to send it to the front end here, we said there is some option we can add. Another option is HTTP. I just want to see if it gives me the HTTP only, and you say true. Yeah. What it does, it adds security to your token and to your cookie. It means this must be only sent through the HTTP request, and that HTTP request must come from this origin, because we define that in the server. This is the origin is allowed to receive the cookie and to send the cookie. Anybody else that wants to do that, block it. You saw that. It was course block. I don't know who you are that you want the cookie. So now let's create to log in again. I'm gonna check here. We don't have an HTTP only tick. I'm gonna just delete this and try to log in again. Okile password is 12345. Login. Bang. Fantastic. There is a token coming. it's saved to the cookies, and look at that. This tick, HTTP only. Now, it's not accessible. Now, if I want to check the document cookies now, look at that. It shows empty. But it's not empty. I know we have it. See? It's because we set it HTTP only, and no one now can access with JavaScript with that. It's only accessible in the request, HTTP request, and only if this page is sending the request. Does that make sense? Cool. That's actually cookies. Let me go back to notes. Where is our notes? For now, you come down. We will come back to you. Yeah. So, HTTP only cookies are prevented from being accessed by JS in the browser. You saw that. So this increases security. So as we talked about it, imagine an XSS attack, like that injection that we already know it. In my GitHub profile had some JavaScript that read your GitHub cookies and then send them to me when you visit my profile. And then after that, when I receive your cookie, I could impersonate you, or I can pretend I am you, or at least read some possibility private data. So keep your cookies safe. JavaScript should not have access to them. That's the HTTP only can help us, okay? So don't forget about that. All right, there are some more notes that I want to talk about it, but you don't need it, I think. That's about cookie that you need to know. Then the steps that you need to make sure that the cookie works. When in your endpoint, you create your cookie, fantastic. Give it a name, the value of the token you put it in the cookie, HTTP only, and some maximum age or expiration. That's it. And then if you want the cookie is able to go and come securely, first the server needs to know that. Don't forget about that. So the server needs to know who is asking or who is sending cookies. You need to say this is the origin that is doing that, your front end. And then when you say credentials true, it means allow cookies go and come. All right? So this allows it to cookies go. And then when the cookies go, it receives it here. And in the login fetch request, we saw that. Also, don't forget, in every request that you need cookies to be saved or you send them to the backend again, you need this word, credential include. If you don't have this, then it means this login doesn't know it should save the cookies there if there's a cookie, or if the request want to go and you need to put the cookies inside of the token inside of the header when the request goes to the backend, then also it doesn't know. So this is a step you have to have it in your mind, or just know it, that how the cookies works. Credentials include in the fetch. This means, hey, if there's a request that I want to send and I need to include the token cookies inside, then do it. Or if the cookie is coming, also take it and save it to our cookies. Yeah, this is the meaning. So now let's experiment the reality. Now what? We go, I think we have still 10 minutes to the break. Now what? When we are logged in with the cookies, so the cookies coming, when the user is logged in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, here, we need to save some information about our user in our front end to know who is this person, or when the person is visiting this page, is it admin, is it allowed to see this secret page or not? Yeah. Now comes the next step, that it's kind of a review and kind of also that you know how to work with this, like how it works, so to say. Okay. First of all, do you know, or do you still, you should know it, but do you still remember what is a context in React and what is it for?
We pass, I think, it was basically really transmitting data, but through the components.
Yes, fantastic. Yes. Without context, I would say React was hell in 2019 when I was learning React. There was no context. And there was something named Redux. And Redux still exists, but was very complicated. And the Redux was responsible for passing data between the components. But after that, they say, oh, there is a context. That just saved us, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna, as a review, I'm gonna draw that for you. What is a context? This is your app. The entire application, your app, JSX, your React. And then here you have, let's say, navbar somewhere here. You have a login page, you have registration, and let's say you have a secret page, yeah, and maybe inside of secret page you have messages component, so to say. There is, it could be a very large, like kind of tree. This is the login, yeah. Someone logs in, and then you save some information about the user, like who is this user? It's Okile, the username, and so on. You save it, let's say, in this login component in a state. Okay, fantastic. And then you need this user information here in the secret page, yeah. So this means you need to pass this state with props, so to say. With props we could pass information, but passing props, it's like you can pass it from here to here, from the top to bottom, like from the parent to the child, if there is another component here, so to say. But these are not, so the secret is not a child component for this login. It's like kind of totally another component somewhere else in your application. It's like a siblings, yeah? So in reality, what you would do without context, it's like passing the prop. You have to pass it to your application, which is the parent. You say, hey app, can you take this? But you cannot do that because you cannot pass props from child to parent because it doesn't exist. You only could do it from parent to child, yeah. So there was a problem like this to passing information. Then what would we do? We would do in the application. Then let's save the state here, the state of the user, Okile information here when it's logging. And then from here we could, for example, pass the Okile here. And then if the messages we need the Okile, for example, information, also we need to pass it also with props to this one. It was really a lot of props in props in props. Maybe you have another component here and you need Okile. Let's say if you need Okile information in these props, not here, not here, then you have to do it, hey, pass it here. And this secret page needed to pass it to the messages, and messages needed to pass it, for example, to create a message component, let's say, to say. You needed Okile information here, but you need to pass it all of this down to here. It was really huge, and if your application would grow more and more and you have more components like this, then it was a hell to pass information with props. Yeah? So what they did, they said, okay, this is difficult like this. What if this is our application or our app, and then this is a secret page, this is login, this is registration, and I don't know, this is navbar, and in the secret page there is a messages component. What if when like user is logged in this case Okile, now we need information about Okile here, like in the messages component. So we don't have to now pass the information in the app to this secret page and the secret page to the messages. They said, let's create a storage somewhere here in our application, name it context. It could be product context, it could be user context, or whatever. But it's just a room and a storage, or imagine it as a room. You have a room and you put a lot of information you want there, like about the user that is logged in, user set user, or about products, about anything, I don't know. A lot of information you can put here. It's somewhere in your application, and whoever needs those information, they can go straight ahead there. So if this component needs Okile, it goes there, hey, give me Okile state, user state or user. If this one needs it, give it to me. If the message needs it, hey, give it to me. So straight ahead, they can go to this, they name it context. Yeah, they can go to this context or user context, take whatever they need and they use it. That's why they created the context. It's saving us a lot of this prop in prop in prop, which was hell, and it's much pretty easier to do that. That's why we need context actually. Does that make sense now? Do you remember this? All right. So we need also context always. We need a user context. If you have a messages, you need a message context, because everything about messages goes to a context. Everything about a user goes to a user context. If you have products, everything about products goes to the products context. Yeah, that every time if a component needs products, it goes to this context to text whatever they need. If a component needs, for example, navbar, usually in the navbar we need about user information, because sometimes in the navbar you see like a profile image about the person is logged in, some name and so on. So in the navbar most of the time you need to access to the user context to get the user information. Yeah, that's the thing that you we need context for that actually. And today we want to do the user context. When the user is logged in, we want to save the user information inside of this context, and every time we need the user information we go there and take it. All right, make sense? Cool. Wow. So we have 2 minutes. So in these 2 minutes I would like to create, so we have always context And the context, some people create it in the root of client, I've seen, and some people create it in an SRC. Yeah, so I would like to put it in SRC. So we have a folder, let's say user context. You could have different contexts. So context, imagine it as a room or as a storage for different stuff. You have one room is just related about users, and you have one room is just related about products. You have another room is just related things about messages, whatever. Yeah. In this case, we have a user context, CTX context. Yeah. And inside we create a context which is user user context, let's say. .jsx, and because it's a JSX with capital, don't forget that, user context. All right. So let's be back. It's at 10:30 now. Let's be back in 15 minutes. We create the context and we continue developing this and see how these things works. Okay. See you in 15 minutes.